At least on this continent, I would say it's like 150 years in the making. On this property, it's been around 75, I want to say, years. Yeah. As far as my role on the family farm, I kind of bounce around. I do have a 9-to-5 job, so I'm just the helping hand, I would guess. We run about 100 cow-calf pairs of cattle. They're mostly commercial Key Angus crossed, as well as we have around 20 sheep at the moment. We like to call it our little profitable hobby, and they're mostly Texel Oxford cross with a few Shropshires in there as well. Growing up, we always had sheep, and I started out kind of preferring cattle over sheep. I started showing cattle at around 4 versus I started showing sheep when I was 9 or 10. And just kind of over the years, that morphed into me spending a lot of time with my grandpa, and that was our thing to do. I did start liking sheep a little bit more than cattle. Don't say that too loud around these parts. I did move away for school for a couple years, so I did miss out on an opportunity to start taking over the sheep a little bit earlier than I actually did. And sadly, my grandpa did pass away before I had returned without too much of a succession plan in place, but my dad was pretty good about it, and I ended up purchasing 3 ewes off of my sister actually, and kind of starting my flock with that and carrying on some of the groundwork that my grandpa had laid for me. I'm very excited to continue on, and my hope is just to kind of work that succession plan with my dad where I will eventually be taking over all of the sheep. As me and my 3 sisters grew up, we all were very involved with the sheep. As we've gotten older, I kind of have stepped into that role a little bit more. I've kind of shown the most interest out of all of my sisters, and I did go away to school for animal science to kind of expand my knowledge for our home operation as well. On the farm, we have 1 working dog. He's around 10 now. His name's Dode. He is an Australian Shepherd Border Collie cross, we're pretty sure. And we didn't really formally train him at all. It kind of just came out naturally. But he is able to help us get all of the cattle out of the barn and then stand in the doorway and keep them out. So showing livestock, it is just a hobby, kind of like a dance class or karate or something, but it involves an animal that you raise yourself or you borrow from somebody, and you go to different shows and kind of show it off to the best of its potential, either for meat intentions or breeding stock intentions. I've compared it to like a bodybuilding competition. You're kind of posing them to make them look as muscular or as good as you possibly can. Sheep need to be shorn every year. It's kind of like the same concept as getting a haircut for yourself. It just gets too long and unmanageable and can affect the way that they actually see. So we just need to get that cleaned up for them every year. I've been showing since I was around 6 on my own, even earlier with my dad. When I was around 4, we would show steers, and I would usually just be on the end of the lead line, and we would go down to our local county fair. So they try and get you in young for sure to get started on building that skill. I know like the textbook definition of third space is somewhere other than your house and work, or your school and your house. So anything from like libraries or a coffee shop or the town watering hole, as well as there's different organizations and clubs. So the dance studios in towns, the 4-H clubs in towns, different things like that, I guess. My third space was 4-H. I unfortunately have aged out at this point, but 4-H is essentially an organization where you start when you're 9 to 21, and essentially they have a bunch of life skills clubs, which are more homemaking clubs, so baking, cooking, sewing. They also have farm restoration for farm machinery. They have some crop clubs, so they have a plowing club, as well as some more plant science-based clubs and livestock clubs. So I was in 4-H for around 10 years, I want to say. And yeah, I started when I was fairly young. I started showing before I was even in 4-H and stopped showing after I was in 4-H. I snuck one show in before I turned 22, so we got the most years we possibly could out of that sector of showing, for sure. A lot of my adult friendships started in 4-H. It was kind of like our hobby on the weekend when it came to every summer. Some people would be away for ball tournaments, like I would go and show livestock every weekend, and you are in the same organization with people from the time you're 9 to the time you're 21. So it really just brought everybody together, and you were that club, you represented that club. And so it kind of made a sense of belonging and inclusion, because no matter what background you kind of came from, even if you weren't from a farm and you were just borrowing a lamb from somebody, everybody had a space there. I guess pretty much every weekend was my favorite time in my third space. It was our big thing as a family. We would all go and drop everything to go to a show. You got to go show off your lamb to the best of its potential and have your little kind of performance. And then seeing all your friends, and again, like spending a bunch of time with your family, even on the road trips that we would have to go on to get to those shows. It was a family event. What I miss about 4-H is kind of that consistency of working towards a goal all year. You sign up for that year of 4-H in February, and usually you start working with your animal partway through the summer, and then slowly train them up before any of the shows that you're going to. So you pretty much are working most of the year towards getting them trained enough so that they'll do well at a show, as well as just the community that kind of brought with it to be at a different kind of social engagement every weekend with, again, some of the same people, some new people. As an adult, that's not exactly something that you have consistently anymore, so definitely miss it. Community to me means a common space and a common motivation for good or for change. Like everybody coming together and getting involved no matter what age and where you come from, essentially. I feel like humans by nature are very social creatures. And as much as you can be social at home or at work and school, having that third space really just takes the pressure off of having to perform a certain role. For a lot of people, it's kind of like a creative outlet, I guess, and can take your mind off of if there are any issues, say at home or at work and school. It's another consistent thing in your life to navigate, I guess. I guess I wish more people knew that 4-H is for everyone. Like, you do not have to be from a farm. You do not have to have some preconceived notion of how to bake, how to cook. They will start you from ground zero. They will come to where you are. They will lend you a sheep, they'll lend you a calf, and kind of walk you through the whole process. It is for everyone. Everybody in the clubs are very inclusive and very supporting.